As we look at the nation in 2020, we have to be concerned about the spiritual state of our country. There's a number of areas you can look at. We're telling our young people, you know what, you can be whatever you want. You can change your gender, you can change your sexuality, you can change your fluidity. We're in a culture now where we're in a sense saying everyone is their own standard. The problem with that is that's where some very dangerous things can come in. That's where you can see people that would espouse hate or violence or death, and you begin to see anarchy. When you move a nation away from a standard, you put yourself on a journey that can be flat scary.
2020 is a major election year, and while there are many political conflicts in our nation today, this is ultimately a spiritual battle.
Elections have consequences, and those that we put in power pass the laws and make decisions that affect our country. Part of these laws were the Refugee Resettlement Act, and this is exactly how we ended up with Ilhan Omar in Minnesota, for example, who came into this country when we started accepting a wave of Somali refugees. So here we bring people like Ilhan Omar, who comes to our country, paid for by our tax dollars, educated in American schools, paid for by our tax dollars, ends up becoming a member of Congress, elected by American citizens. And here we have a member of Congress who is ungrateful for this country, who does not believe America is exceptional, who talks about 9/11 as, oh, some people did something, as if completely removed, as if something completely brushed away that meant nothing to her.
Election 2020 is going to have huge impact for the future of our nation, for the courts, for the leadership of our military, for our government. And I think it's very important for Christians to recognize a few things. Number one, we need to register to vote. Number two, we actually need to vote. And by the way, churches, nonprofit organizations can do both of those. You can register people, you can drive people to the polls, you can organize your communities. But then I challenge to make sure that you vote intelligently.
The numbers are clear that the number of people in America that identify as Christians is a majority of the country. If they just showed up and voted, they could win every election. There was a case several years back where the first open lesbian mayor of Houston wanted to censor all the sermons of all the pastors in Houston. When you look at it, the combined membership of those churches in Houston is multiple times more than what the vote count was that got this mayor elected in the first place. If they would just show up and vote. And I believe that the good Lord is watching each one of us.
A big issue at the forefront of election 2020 is economic policy. There's an astonishing growth in the popularity of socialism, especially among young people, despite socialism's track record.
I think all of us have been disturbed by polling data that shows that young Americans particularly seem to be very open, if not outwardly and completely supportive of socialism, when in fact all over the world and throughout history, if young people were just being taught reality, they would know that socialism never works. Sadly, people in free countries will sometimes voluntarily vote to adopt socialism, but they almost never get a chance to vote their way out of socialism. Almost always, when people realize how bad it is, they end up having to shoot their way out of socialism.
You have a whole new generation of Americans right now who believe socialism is great. They want us to be a socialist country. It is ironic that our people, our children are marching in the streets demanding socialism and watching what's happening in China right now, where their people are marching in the streets waving the American flags and demanding that China be like the United States of America. But this is a problem because in the last election, over 40 members of Congress ran as socialists. People don't realize that. So it has become fashionable right now because it had become fashionable on college campuses to be a socialist. Venezuela, in a matter of 13 years, went from one of the most prosperous countries in the world to today a total socialist country where people are starving. They are rationing foods, one meal a day. People are losing weight. The whole country is falling apart. It took 13 years to transform Venezuela. And the same thing can happen to America. And we cannot allow that to happen.
Another area of concern in modern America is the gender issue. God's word clearly says that he made two sexes, male and female, but our culture says otherwise.
There are 3 companion cases currently before the Supreme Court, and it deals with the redefinition of the term sex within Title VII, which historically and congressionally, legislatively, always meant to protect the biological difference between male and female. It's meant to protect the female gender and sex. But what's being contemplated now is an in-run around the legislature to expand that definition to include SOGI language, which means sexual orientation and gender identity. So what is at stake here is not only the rights of women and making sure that we are actually protected how we should be constitutionally and legislatively, but this would have an impact on Christian ministries, on small businesses. And so not only are these cases making an in-run around the legislature, but this is not for the judicial branch to say that sex as a definition can be expanded to include sexual orientation and gender identity. That would be for the legislature to contemplate. The progressive left has tried to expand that definition through legislation, the Equality Act and so forth, that has never passed legislatively. So now they're trying to push it through the courts.
There's also an ongoing conflict between the sanctity of life ethic and the quality of life ethic. Human life is sacred, but not according to many in our country today.
You know, it was one thing when women had abortions and ultrasound technology really wasn't available or it wasn't as prevalent, and women were truly believing their doctors when they were told that it's just a mass of tissue, it's just a clump of cells. You know, women chose abortion in true ignorance of what they were doing. But now we have all these advances in medical technology.
Upwards of 90% of abortions take place for psychosocial reasons, right? So concerns about finances, education, stable employment, being rejected by family, husband, boyfriend, facing domestic violence, right? The majority of abortions do take place for those kind of reasons. But the other thing we have to recognize too is coercion and force have a huge role to play. So the Elliott Institute puts out some great statistics on this, and I think it's about 64% of women report feeling pressured into their abortion decision.
The spiritual state of the nation in 2020 shows that as a nation, we are ripe for spiritual revival and true change from within.
As we look at 2020, the answer for America remains the same. If you look to 2 Chronicles chapter 7, it doesn't say if the judges, if the politicians, if the media, if the liberals, if the ungodly do anything. It says, if my people. And sadly, while many groups are out of the closet, most Christians I know are firmly in the closet. They want to go to heaven when they die, but they just don't want to talk about Jesus down here. If we don't get out of the closet, these other voices are going to continue to fill the vacuum.